Welcome to the Irish NFL Show and to our Week 1 preview. As the late great Douglas Adams might have said, it's a trilogy in 4 parts. We are breaking down the 6 o'clock games into 2 parts. We're doing the 9 o'clock games separately, and we're doing the late games and Monday Night Football all across 4 separate shows to make it that much easier to break it down and to consume in your own time. This is the second half of the 6 o'clock games that we're looking at now. We're starting with Titans Saints Colum. The Derek Carr era gets underway. Have they got a fast car?
This to me, it's Kiss versus Guns N' Roses. The Titans
went straight from Tracy Chapman to Kiss versus Guns N' Roses.
I did. I was keeping the music theme going. The Titans are Kiss to me because a lot of fun at one point, but they've rolled out the same gimmick time and time again. We know what it is. It's Derrick Henry. How many touches can he continue to take? It's Ryan Tannehill, and they keep choosing QBs as a replacement, but then they never seem happy with the replacements. So I'm not entirely sure what they're doing there. The Saints are Guns N' Roses for me because they've had moments over the years, incredible standout moments, but they keep going, and it's the law of diminishing returns. I do think Derek Carr is an upgrade at QB for them, but how much more can you continue to get out of that defense would be my concern. Lattimore will be fantastic, I've no doubt, but you worry about the safety. And at pass rush, can you continue to rely on Cam Jordan? I think they will have enough to get over the line at home against the Titans, but over the course of the season, they'll be competitive. But Dennis Allen is my concern there. Can he take the Saints to the next level? I'm not entirely sure, but I think the Titans, I've said it on our preview show, I think they probably should have gone to rebuild rather than retool.
Brian, you have the Saints marching all the way to the NFC Championship game, famously, so surely they start that march by taking care of the Titans at home.
I would think so, yeah. We've spoken on our South preview, the NFC South preview round. We're not entirely sure. This is another team you throw into that kind of 5 or 6 team piece where you're just not sure what you're going to get from them, and it's probably the same going into Sunday. And then it comes Sunday night, if they win, we'll be saying Mike Vrabel again. Why did we dismiss him, and why did we dismiss him as a coach with a bunch of players? We touched on their pass rush has to really be established again and get back to what we saw a couple of years ago when they were the number 1 seeds. But I don't think they have enough on offense to go up against this Saints team. I think this Saints team will come out hot at home, and I think Derek Carr will be looking forward to this new opportunity. And I think with a point to prove, and I am high on the Saints, but even taking all that away, I look at this game and the Saints do have a strong defence. If you get back to the defensive old at home, the crowd will be well up for this game. We saw last year it wasn't really the same. It wasn't that same buzz and feel when they were playing at home against certain teams. I think we'll see Week 1 a boisterous crowd, and I think they'll will them to a victory, and I think they'll put up points on this defence. And can the Titans live with them? I don't think so. I think Olave and players like that will be having big games on Sunday. And look out for Williams, their new free agency acquisition at running back from the Lions. I think he'll start the season strong. Brandon Mike Kamara, there'll be, there's a suspension there in play as well. So for me, Saints win and win is going away.
2 pretty strong defences taken up the field for the 49ers Steelers game, Colum, including the newly minted, at time of recording, best paid defensive player in football, Bosa for the 49ers. He held out and he got paid.
Yeah, used the leverage really well. Deserves to be paid, given what he's capable of, can take over a game, can wreck it. When I was thinking of these 2 teams, I went...
34 sacks in the last 2 seasons.
Oh, he's a monster, and I mean, when you can compare him to his brother, they're both, fantastic talent, but Nick stays on the field, and he gets it done. Can Joey stay on the field? I'd say they had to repair
a serious amount of plasterboard in that home.
Can you imagine? But to me, these 49ers, they're like the travelling Wilburys, right? Because it's a veritable who's who when you look at the starting lineup anyway. And the pieces, they have all the pieces right now. There are no injuries. The question is around Brock Purdy. But they're going up against the Steelers, who I compare to the Highwaymen, another super group, but who are going to look to pick your pocket, right? Mike Tomlin, we know that the Steelers treat training camp different to every other team. They're in full pads, they tackle, they treat it like a game, and going into Week 1, that can take teams by surprise. I think that's what makes this interesting. If the 49ers were going up against probably say 20 of the 32 teams, you'd say absolute outright favourites for this. There are obviously the standout teams, the Chiefs and others, who you think that'll be a real game. The Steelers, when you look at the roster, or certainly the starters, the 49ers should be favourites, but it's really difficult to go into Pittsburgh and get a win week one, especially with Purdy coming in. And the Steelers are able to get pressure across the board, able to get pressure from the outside, able to get pressure through the middle, and able to get pressure from the back. I'm going to go maybe it's a klaxon, Brian, maybe it's a surprise. I think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers can get the win. I think keep an eye on Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's going to be looking to pick Brock Purdy off. I think where Brock Purdy has struggled has been where defense has been able to disguise what they're looking to do pre-snap. And I think the Steelers do that really well. I'm going to say maybe a surprise here.
Yeah, you'd have said at a certain point last season that there was such a gap between these two teams, Brian. The Steelers would never be closing that by the start of this season. A lot of excitement in Steeltown now. They like what they've seen with Kenny Pickett. Got a couple of really exciting wide receivers there. I have been talking this up all off season. You're smiling away at me. But this is a pretty good test for them week one.
This team have been my South team, the way people talking about the Steelers. Like I'm behind the Browns, so I can't be behind both of them. But the way people are dressing this team up, they don't need to show up for something. They don't show up for the course of the season. What I would say is, fairness to the Steelers and fairness to Mike Tomlin, he always has them ready for week one. They beat the Bengals on the road last year. They beat the Bills on the road the season before that. First home game, opening game of the season for 9 years. So this is a kind of a different feel for them. The expectation will be from Steelers fans. They'll be expecting a win. I know the Sky coverage is there. Like everyone's buying into the Steelers thing. They're going over to the game. Like that's where they're doing the opening game this season. They're doing it live at the Pittsburgh Steelers game. Everyone is expecting. But this team with the Niners are battle testers. They've been around, they've been here. This is a team that should have been in the Super Bowl by now. We really truly don't know what would have happened in that championship game. It wasn't for the injuries. It's gone now. It's a new season. I recognise that. Be interested to see how Bosa is. You read all the reports that he's been doing his own preparation. He's ready to go. He's going to step in. I'm not entirely sure that's really what we're going to see. It's very difficult to play no matter how fit they are and how ready they are to play. If they're away from the team and everything the team has been scheming up for the particular game. I mean, the plans for this game would have been put in place for weeks. Still picking the Niners because I have the Niners going to the Super Bowl. And I think, I keep talking about Brock Purdy and how impressive he was last season. It's a brand new season for him. He's going to be ready. McCaffrey's going to be fully fit. Kittle's going to be fully fit. On paper, the Niners should win. But again, if the Steelers are fully prepared, I'm going to buy myself back to the Steelers here. I'm going to the Niners. I still think of the two teams who will be prepared the most, I think it'll be a tight one, but I think the 49ers will find a way to get over the line.
I have Niners in the Super Bowl, so I better back them in this one, despite my hyping up of the Steelers. Colum, Cardinals Commanders. We should be done with this one in 10 seconds. Clearly the Cardinals are tanking, and this is a good place to start.
Well, if we're going through with musical references, the Cardinals are the Fire Festival, essentially, right? Everything that has gone on this off-season that you're hearing about, Gannon, the advantage of not naming a QB, getting rid of Colt McCoy, it's all so strange. Now we hear Michael Lombardi talking about they're going to keep Kyler on the pup for the entirety of the season because they're worried that he could get injured and then they'll be on the hook for even more money. For the Commanders,
because everybody wants to trade for a quarterback that's going to break if you take him out of the box. Yeah.
You go back. This is a Cardinals team though who were 9-0. Lest we forget, at one point just a couple of years ago they were 9-0, and then it all went wrong. And there was the new contract, then there was the clause, and it keeps going wrong. Every time you hear the Cardinals in the news, it's it's another bad news story. It's another bad news story. And that used to be this other team who were had the worst owner in the league, bar none, which is saying something in a league that has some truly terrible owners. But I referenced...
I thought you were going to go off on one there. You had your Jim Irsay pre-season rant. I thought we were going to follow it up with a Snyderverse rant.
No, he's gone. And the way I'm looking at it, I referenced Joy Division New Order earlier. I feel this is New Order, but truly a New Order, because they have somebody in there now who's actually going to invest in the stadium. They're not going to have raw sewage flowing through the stadium on top of fans, lest we forget that's a real thing that happened. I think it's going to be, a feel-good factor. You saw the fans show up for training camp. I expect that they, even with Sam Howell, he couldn't have probably asked for a nicer start. To me, it's the Commanders and the Eric Bieniemy stories disappear for at least a week.
It's game is sold out. First Commanders home game to sell out in like 20 years. So that says it all. But obviously the fans are buying into a new chapter for this team. And obviously the new ownership that Colum was referred to. And the Cardinals, like every year when new head coaches come in, you get to see the coverage, and every team does a great job of marketing their team, and they put out all the various different content. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to watch the one recently with Jonathan Gannon about people getting the bus in and people driving in and people coming in all different modes of transport and trying to inspire these guys. It was very flat. And normally when you see a new head coach and you watch the content, you say, God, I can see why that team could do well. Don't necessarily have the players around them, but you can understand why teams do well. And even watching that, it wasn't inspiring whatsoever. So I can only imagine what Cardinals fans are thinking going into the season.
This time next year, we'll have Caleb Williams come along and watch us lose as many games as it takes to get there.
And then I listened to a report during the week that even if they do get him next year, because of the nature of the contract that they, in madness that they gave to Kyler Murray, they're on the hook for something in the region of $80 million. So they can't even allow him to move off next year unless someone's going to consume that contract, which no one in their right mind is going to take that on next year. So they might be stuck with Kyler Murray next year, showing him the ropes. Now, bearing in mind, this is the guy this time last year, who was openly coming out and saying, I'm looking for stipulation contracts around, the Cardinals want the contract stipulations around how much time and effort he's going to put in on the tablet. I mean, it's a complete and absolute mess. As I said, the only reason I can see the Cards winning this one is because I was in St. John's Park the other day and I happened to see it, a bit of paint on the wall saying Cards. I said, maybe that's a sign, but it must be an Indian sign, because I think the former Redskins team will win on Sunday and win convincingly the Commanders all day long.
Meanwhile, Colum, the other Maryland team, the Baltimore Ravens, taking on the Texans. That's a baptism of fire for CJ Stroud, another rookie quarterback making his first start. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, you'd expect to be fired up. New offensive coordinator in town, new day, and they're going after it.
Yeah, and I was thinking on this one, and what came to mind was Tina Turner and her return with What's Love Got to Do with It, right? Which some would say applies to a different game this weekend. But if you think about it, Tina was an absolute superstar, right? Then she married Ike. Then Ike turned out to be, domestic abuser. There was all that situation. She disappeared for a time, and then she burst back onto the scene with one of her best ever songs. I think that's going to be the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar is going to burst back onto the scene this season. I think you're going to see a different side of Lamar. I think they just didn't allow him to be the quarterback that he can be. You'll still see Lamar running, but I think you're going to see Lamar throwing an awful lot more. I'll keep going back to it. Vic Fangio said that Lamar Jackson compared him to Barry Sanders, and then he said we're not going to allow him to run. They didn't allow him to run. They did stop Lamar running that day. Lamar beat them through the air, over 300 yards on the Vic Fangio defense. Lamar is fantastic. The Texans, I think D'Amico Ryan's going to be great. But it is to go into Baltimore week one, another team who, take training camp preseason very seriously, even though they did lose finally and end the streak, but they get back to winning ways. And, the Texans and CJ Stroud are unfortunately 0-1 at the end of week one.
A blowout for the Ravens?
Oh, I don't know, because D'Amico Ryans he's gonna be scheming things up, but I would expect the Ravens to win 2 touchdowns.
The reason I ask is I took time out to watch our good-natured week one, way too early picks in the summer, and you two said Ravens squeak past the Texans in week one. Not for me. I think this one is. I think CJ Stroud is in for a tough start to his NFL season. Like Baltimore is a difficult place to go at the best of times to get a victory. Lamar Jackson, there's a good feel about the Ravens at the moment. Bateman back fit. Odell Beckham's there. Zay Flowers, who Colum was high on, Rookie of the Year prediction. If this defense is a defense we've seen Ravens play at home, it's hard to see how they could live with them. So, a difficult start for some of the quarterbacks this weekend. I think the Ravens are probably going to be, one of the most standout victories of the weekend.
I don't see them blowing by them, though, I have to say. I'm going to move a little bit away from my squeak by, I have to say, because it does look like the Ravens.
You're very high, Will Anderson.
Barely tuned up. Yeah, no, and I am looking forward to seeing them. I think the Texans will play hard. They played hard for Lovie Smith without an awful lot going on. And I think they'll play hard for D'Amico Ryans. He's not the kind of guy you can see going in there and accepting anything less than 100%. So I don't think it's going to be, I don't think they're going to get steamrolled, but I don't see them getting the W in that game. Right, that's it for the second half of our preview of the 6 o'clock games. Check out the other half, of course, and the 9 o'clock game preview that we have, and the late games and the Monday Night Football in our fourth show of the week.